Joining me in studio is Robert Kerr, CEO and founder of Kerr Financial. Robert, thank you for being here this morning.
Nice to be here.
Listen, we're going to be talking about a subject that is difficult to talk about with your family members, but it is a reality once once a parent passes away. The financial aspect of it, if you're not prepared, can be very overwhelming. So what are some of the very, very first steps to take when this sad moment happens?
Well, the first step is always to look after the family. Look after mom, look after your brothers, sisters, make sure everybody's feeling as well as they can in that tough situation. And then you start to think about the paperwork and did Dad have a will? Did he have funeral arrangements made? What's in place? What do I have to do?
What do I have to do? And I mean, the will, it's also something you have to sort of bring up at one point when your parents or when your father is still alive. And tell me about that paperwork and the arrangements that have to be made.
Well, the will itself is like a letter that he's left behind to say, this is what I want to have done with my financial affairs. No one can die until they settle all their financial affairs. So they have to look after income taxes, they have to look after passing of assets on to the family members, have to protect those who need the wealth, and it's an important document. Of course, you can't even work with the will until you have a death certificate. In Quebec, you're required to get an official death certificate from Quebec City, and so you collect the death notice or certificate from the funeral home, from the hospital, and you send it off to the officials and get back a document. And now it says Dad is dead, and now you can do something. You got the will and the death certificate.
And then the paperwork is ready. One of the very important things you say to do is not to rush to settle the estate. Why is that?
Well, I think that most people feel they have to get everything done right away. And yet, in a lot of settlements of wills that we do, takes as long as 3 years to get all the paperwork done. So what's got to be done right away is make sure there's some cash available to pay some bills, make sure there's security over assets, because while you're going to the funeral, somebody could be stealing out of your house. The people who worked for the family might feel they have a right to some painting or memento. So you've got to put security in place, you've got to get some cash, and then you've got to get the will to get on with settling affairs.
The will to speak for itself. And now, before I let you go, maybe if you have one crucial piece of advice for people who may be going through this situation right now, or know that unfortunately it is coming.
I think the most important thing is to look inside yourself and see how you feel about Dad's death. It affects each one of us differently. You're now the head of the family, you've got to deal with things, and you've got to look after some of your family members, so I think that's the most important thing.
Well, Robert Kerr, thank you so much for being with us this morning. A difficult subject to talk about, but it is so important to be prepared, and again, thank you for coming in and giving us some great tips.